Hello.
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 Hi there.
Hello and welcome to the RadioTimes.com podcast, and we'll be looking at this week's Premier League games live on TV. I'm Michael Potts, and today I'm joined in the studio by Mr. Jake Wilson.
What is happening, Michael? How are we today?
I'm very well. It's nice to have, a slightly more southern voice facing me than Mr. Ketchel.
Well, that's it. I don't really get told I'm southern.
Yeah, sorry if that's a massive insult. Great start there.
It's usually northern living in London now. But
Yeah.
Here we are, ready to speak some football.
Go with that. And we have some pretty big games coming up this weekend on Sky Sports and BT, so we'll just dive straight into them. First up, we have another Friday night football. It's Aston Villa versus Everton, 8 o'clock on Sky Sports Premier League and main event. Don't know if you've seen either of these sides play so far, but I was very impressed with Villa on the opening day. Not so much in their second game against Bournemouth.
Yeah, typically I'll be speaking about the big Midland rivals first game in, but yes, I watched the Spurs game as well, and they were really good. I thought Engels and Mings especially were just so dominant at the back. Never really heard of Engels before, but he's really come through, and obviously a lot was spoken about Mings' price tag, but seems like they were going to keep Spurs out for a little while.
Yeah, it's interesting that they I feel like they only have this policy of only scoring absolute worldies so far. John McGinn has this shoot on sight sort of approach, which I highly endorse. Obviously, Douglas Luiz scored a screamer as well. You just kind of you wonder whether that's going to continue, whether they can keep slamming them in from 30 yards, or whether.
I think that might be their problem this year, scoring goals. Wesley, in the bits we've seen so far, doesn't look like a natural goal scorer. He looks more like a kind of a goal assister, sorting them out, holding the ball up. He did hold the ball up really well against Spurs, I thought.
Yeah, I sort of said this last week, I think. Just he's a bit of a bounce board, isn't he, for those four midfielders behind. Obviously, you still want your main striker to
grab a few
to get among the goals. Grealish yet to really tear up any trees.
Yeah, it's a shame, that record.
It's a shame, says the Wolves fan.
Fans have revelled in it somewhat, but I think it is a bit of a shame for him, because he obviously is a very talented boy, and I think he will come good. And I think it's just poor luck more than anything, that one.
Bit of time to get into the swing of things. Everton are an interesting team. So I was doing a bit of research on their pre-season as well. Their last 6 games, they've drawn 4 of them 0-0 and won the other 2 1-0. So there's been 2 goals in 6 games there between both sides. It's pretty unexpected from a Marco Silva side. You'd think they're going to be flying out the traps, all guns blazing, and winning every game 4-3.
You would, but they've got a strange kind of forward line now. Richarlison started really strong the last 2 seasons and faded, and hopefully for them he'll do the same. But then with Calvert-Lewin up top, he's never really scored loads of goals. Sigurdsson has his patches more so, and then I guess Moise Kean will be the big hope when he finally starts.
You kind of wonder where they're all going to fit, because Richarlison drifts to the left, he's up front. You've got Calvert-Lewin, who can probably do similar, although he usually goes through the middle. Keane can be flexible, and even Iwobi, we haven't even talked about Alex Iwobi, but where's he going to slot into that?
It's mad, and then Walcott as well. They've got these 2 Arsenal wingers that just might have to sit on the bench and wait their turn.
A bit of a strange blend, but hopefully it clicks soon. Any predictions for the game?
I think it will be quite tight, actually. I think Everton, they've got to be targeting the top 6, the money they've spent the last few summers, but I don't think they'll have the consistency of beating sides like Villa to do that. So I think a 1-1.
Gone exactly the same.
Have you?
Nice and on the fence. Look at this. The start of something beautiful here.
Great minds. Straight from the start.
Moving on to Saturday's games, we have Norwich versus Chelsea, a 12:30 kickoff on BT Sport 1. Timu Pukki, welcome to the Premier League. My word.
Yes. There we are.
Wow.
Are we the same person?
This is a bit strange.
There's no place else to start rather than Timu. It's a shame that he's got so much focus when Norwich plays so well as a whole team, but 4 goals in the first 2 games. No player's ever done that before. It's really phenomenal.
Impressive going, isn't it? I think, has Ketch recovered yet? I feel like he's still sort of rocking in a darkened room somewhere.
He is. I think he's expecting it at this point, though. Yeah. I don't think he's surprised by Newcastle's pitfalls, but we're trying to pat him on the back and bring him nice warm drinks now and then.
Please do that.
Yeah,
keep doing
him
that.
Safe.
Pukki though, I mean, he's such a hard worker. I mean, a brutal finisher as well. But the state of that first goal was a ridiculous hit.
It's ridiculous, as you said, and it had to be a first time. A lot of his finishes seem to be. In the Premier League, you apparently get 0.2 seconds if you take a touch in the box to then before someone's on you. And I don't think he's going to need that. I think he's going to one of those penalty box finishers who isn't big and fast. He's kind of under 6 foot, but he is just going to hit the net every time. And I think with the players behind him like Buendia are going to be running in, helping him out. I think Norwich are going to be a good side.
I've already made a little bit of a fantasy move for Todd Cantwell.
Ooh,
I know that's nice a rogue. That makes me sound like some kind of mad hipster fantasy player here. But created the second most chances in the Premier League so far after Kevin De Bruyne.
Well, there we are.
8 chances he's created, and Pookie has taken most of them.
It's a smart signing. I think he's only like 4.5, isn't it?
He's 4.5 million.
So he might be a smart one to have.
He's coming from my bench.
I'm sure people will be jumping on that bandwagon.
Absolutely.
Very soon.
They obviously go up against Chelsea this weekend, who I think they'll probably be just about as entertaining as Norwich this season, but not always for the right reasons. I watched the first half the other day, and they sort of flooded forward. They had quite a few chances early on, got in the lead. Had to leave the game halfway through watching it. Asked my mate, Chelsea fan, how he thought it went, and he was genuinely sort of stunned that they'd actually got anything out of it. So it must have been a pretty dramatic.
It was like two different sides. The first half, they controlled the game really well. Mount got the goal nice and early, and I think that really kind of helped them. But second half, it must have been a fitness thing, I think, with the Super Cup a few days before. They just couldn't hold on to the ball in the same way. Leicester really got going. Maddison grabbed the scruff of the neck of the game. And I think Chelsea were quite fortunate to hang on. Yeah. This one might be slightly more different. They've got the time to recover, a full week to prepare for Norwich.
What are you saying then?
It's quite hard to see Chelsea not winning this one. I think Norwich will cause some problems at the back. I think Asby, and if it is Zuma and Christensen again, may struggle with the kind of the bodies they get forward and the counter attacks. But maybe Chelsea 2, Norwich 1 might be.
Gone with a 2-2 here.
Have you?
I think Norwich, bit swashbuckling was the word in my preview. Just a bit almost naive coming up from the Championship, but like in a good way for now. Just sort of go pouring everything at it and just seeing what happens. And 2 exciting teams to watch. Keep an eye on that one. Next up, we have the Saturday evening game, which is Liverpool versus Arsenal, 5:30 on Sky Sports Premier League and Main Event. The only 2 sides to win both games so far.
How tasty is that for us, eh?
Perfect. Adrian had a bit of a shocker. He tried his best to throw away that start.
One lovely moment, and then the next game, not so much.
It's a bit of a week for him. You would expect Arsenal with Lacazette, Aubameyang, Pepe, whoever they've got going forward, you'd expect them to put Adrian under a bit of pressure this weekend.
You'd think they'd be peppering the goal a bit, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Also, big shout out to Sadio Mane, who has scored 3 goals and got an assist in the Super Cup and the Southampton game. He played in the African Cup of Nations final, less than a month ago? I think it was the 19th of July.
Did these boys sleep?
Incredible stuff. In a time when we're talking about footballers needing, a year to recover from a couple of 2 games in 3 days or whatever. You've got Mane just turning up like he's not even missed a step, really.
Unbelievable athlete. I think, he's obviously phenomenal. Salah has his down moments. Firmino doesn't always get the high headlines, but the 3 of them, they score every game.
So good, isn't it?
When a game that goes
when
past.
One of them's not on form, the other 2 can just step up and
exactly. And then they've got Origi to come off the bench now. And we didn't expect him to be such a player, even though he made such an impact last year. I didn't always rate him that highly, but then he does make an impact.
I'm a huge fan of Divock Origi.
I'm
loving the story. Gone from being cast off nearly for 10 million at Fulham, and now he's turned into a Champions League winning Super Cup.
Unbelievable. Could have been at Huddersfield last year.
Could have been.
Now,
bet you regret it. Arsenal, Aubameyang was sharp. Lacazette again probably should have scored a second, but he's back in the goals. Ceballos ran the show.
The stats on that boy's performance.
Phenomenal.
Jeez.
He's sort of, I guess, the player they wanted maybe from, was it Gomez last year? Sorry, not Gomez. Who am I thinking about here? Dennis Suarez.
There he is, yes.
maybe I was thinking, is this going to be the same sort of situation? Comes in, doesn't really make an impact, but I mean, straight away, couldn't have made.
Day one, you couldn't have people raving about him more highly. He did it all. He had the ball, he tackled, he took players on, 4 take-ons, and he completed all 4. And from a central midfielder, it's so good when you've got those players in front of him that are going to swarm the goal.
Yeah. Well, he has so many weapons to aim for, doesn't he? Really doesn't have to do it all in terms of scoring. He just needs to get that ball into that box and let the other.
Someone's going to put it in the net. Yeah, and I think with Van Dijk and potentially Matip, if it's not Gomez, not maybe at their best, I think Arsenal are going to have a bit of joy.
Going for an Arsenal win here?
I'm going to go for 1-1.
1-1.
I think a nice draw would suit both sides. Liverpool are going to want to win at home, but Arsenal, the optimism's there. It's mad that we're thinking the optimism's there. They're just trying to go for the top 4. It's when Wenger was getting the top 4 and he was getting vilified, and now Emery's going to get the top 4, and that'll be a really big success. The game has really changed.
Exciting team, definitely. I think they'll get a goal. Whether they've got enough to get past Liverpool, I'm not quite sure. I've gone for a 2-1 Liverpool, but yeah, anything could happen in that one with that front line.
I'm sure it won't be 0-0.
It won't be 0-0. I think that's a pretty safe take. Sunday, moving on to Super Sunday, we have Bournemouth versus Manchester City, 2:00 on Sky Sports Premier League and main event. It's got backlash written all over it. We might as well not talk about this. 3-0 Man City. So yeah, no.
I can't see anything but City running away with this one. Bournemouth are one of those sides that can be brilliant one game and beat a side that no one expects them to, but then be utterly beatable the next. And I think this is one of those times where they may be utterly beatable.
It's a bit of a lovely team to watch, Bournemouth, aren't they, really?
They are a nice
they're
team
they're fun to watch. King and Wilson up front. I love Callum Wilson. I think he's phenomenal.
Oh, he's brilliant. Should be in the England squad.
Such a fun double act to watch up front. Whether that's going to have any impact on City, who knows? It's strange trying to analyse an opponent against City, because we've seen, I mean, West Ham, I kind of fancied West Ham to show something something on the opening day, and they got 5-0 obviously.
Exactly.
We'll see how that one goes, but yeah, I can't really see anything but De Bruyne turning up.
No.
Sterling, just ridiculous again.
Sterling's on an absolute tear. De Bruyne looks like he's trying to fit 2 seasons worth of assists into one. It's unreal. Whatever side they play as well, if they play Aguero, if they play Jesus, if they play David Silva, if they play Bernardo Silva, it's...
Yeah, Jesus is just like, he's a bit like Iheanacho from the other season, isn't it? Where if he gets 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, he's still going to score. It doesn't matter to him. Okay. So
got a bit more about him than Iheanacho as well. So I think he'll hang around more. Yeah. But yeah, that's the whole side. And Rodri coming in, he looks like one hell of a player.
Yeah. He sort of went under the radar, didn't he, a bit, for a 60 million midfielder? Just sort of kind of...
He's not flashy, he doesn't score a lot of goals, but he does it all in the middle.
If you can slot into that City side and not look out of place, then that's the biggest compliment.
Yeah,
absolutely. Moving on to the last game of the weekend, we have Tottenham versus Newcastle, 4:30 on Sky Sports Premier League and main event. We've already talked a little bit about Tottenham Villa. Spurs didn't look too great in that one. They didn't look too great against City, and yet here they are, 4 points on the board. The Etihad trip out of the way. It looks good on paper. Not all perfect under the waters.
That's what top sides do, though. They get the points, and they'll do it again in this game. They're not at their best, but they haven't really got Eriksen. They haven't got Ali. They haven't got Son. So they're having to kind of figure it out as they go. And Dembele is still slotting in, figuring out where he plays. I think Lamella's return last 2 games, he's looked reasonably impressive, and I think that's really good for them. They haven't always had loads of options off the bench, and I think with Moura not even really playing, this could be a good season for Spurs.
You've got a good like little array of that sort of the 3 behind Kane. They can just keep mixing and matching them. Obviously, when Ali comes back and Son, let's say it's nice having people like Lamella who can just drop in, chip in with a goal.
Yeah, you don't think of him as making loads of impact. That Rabona he scored a couple of seasons ago was kind of that last big thing, but I feel like he could be an important player and get some proper points on the board from this season.
Absolutely. They go against Newcastle, who they're not having a great time of it to start. I think Newcastle fans, they sort of demanded money to be spent. They've kind of got their wish in a sense with Joelinton 40 million and Almiron 20 million. Neither of them really kicking off. I mean, Joelinton missed a bit of a sitter with his head against Norwich.
He's so isolated at the top of the field as well.
He is.
they play that back five now that didn't really seem to know how it was going forward. The midfield three they played was Key, Shelvey and Hayden. None of those really are built for attacking play. So then you've got Almiron behind Joe Linton, and they were just so isolated. I don't think Almiron scored yet.
Almiron he looks very slight, very sort of a delicate player. I think he's clearly got a bit of talent about him. We've seen flashes of it, and obviously if you look back at his Atlanta days, like he's torn teams apart. He just looks a little bit too fragile for me so far.
Yeah, a little bit slight off.
And I think if he's not getting, being able to get a real grip on a game, then that's obviously going to cut off your line to Joe Linton up front, which is not going to help him.
Exactly.
Pressure builds, confidence drops. It's a bit of a sticky one.
It is, and away from home, they've got to play the same way. They've got to play that five, and they've got to leave Joe Linton to do most of that attacking work. But causing Spurs' back four that many problems, I don't see him doing it. And unfortunately, I don't know how long it's going to go like this. They've got to figure something out. There's rumours, people talking about them not being that well drilled, not knowing in training, the organisation quite not being the same as what Rafa brought in, which is not rumours you want. 2
no,
weeks
it's not
into
ideal,
a game
is it
week,
really? No, the manager's not preparing you.
No.
We'll see how that one goes. They're not. This is the thing. It's such a tough game to get back into form. Like they're not going to play an expansive game here. No. They're going to set up compact. They're going to, we've seen Spurs actually have a bit of trouble trying to break down teams who sit back. So you feel like that's probably how they're going to go. I think both, let's say, Almiron and Joe Linton, they both need a moment. Don't really see it coming this time. A nice little 1-0 for Spurs here.
Yeah, and I think if they get that one early, it could then turn into 3 or 4. I think Newcastle have some work to do.
Absolutely. And that wraps up our Premier League previews for the weekend. We've got a few fantasy tips for you now. So I want to start with Wolves.
Nice.
Raul Jimenez was he was my man last year. He was a triple captain, I think, last year. I loved the guy. I kind of cheated on him this year with Jota.
So have I.
So
there we are.
Go.
Diogo, a little bit cheaper.
Am I getting rid of him yet?
I don't think so. I think the first 2 games for Wolves haven't been the most pleasant. We had Leicester, now we've had Man United, and 2 really good sides. The sides we're not expected to score that many goals against. Jota in the Leicester game had his chances, and he'll be disappointed he didn't score any. Jimenez hit the post in the Man United game. Broke my heart, that did. It was such a lovely flick-on header. And I think...
See the pain in his eyes, listeners.
Thankfully, we got the point. And yes, I think both of them will come good and both of them will score. I think they'll assist each other quite a lot as well. Yeah. Lots of people I know go for Neves because he has those lovely strikes from outside the box, but they're very rare. So if you are going to go Wolves... Jota or Jimenez, nice, reasonably priced strikers. Going to score more than a Che Adams, I'd say.
Yeah, a Che Adams. I went with him. He was in my first draft, and I changed him the day before, and he got sent off the day after. I recommended Che Adams to everyone, then didn't put him in, and he got sent off. So, sorry. My little couple of tips, I think I've had De Bruyne since the start, and I think he is just absolutely the bargain of the season so far, probably for the price you pay. Martial, straight through the middle, up front for United. He's a midfielder in this one.
Yeah, he's going to get goals.
Got to go for that. And I'm going with do not pick Teemu Pukki this week. So 700,000 people already. That's going to top 1 million by the end of the week, pretty much. They've got Chelsea coming up, West Ham away, Man City coming up.
Tough games.
It's not an easy run.
No.
I think hold off. I could look very silly here, but I'm saying hold off on Pukki just for now. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a few easier games after that.
Oh, I agree. And he's the same. He's more expensive than Jota, as we spoke about.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think he's got a nicer run of fixtures than Pukki. Pukki will have his spells, I think. I think Varka spoke about it, that there will be times where he doesn't score, but they'll be sticking with him.
Don't get too excited just yet, people. No. Don't get too excited.
And one from me, I would have to say, Everton fullback. They haven't conceded at home since February. So if you're going to get Digne or Coleman in, they're going to get you assists. They're going to get you clean sheets.
Is Digne possibly injured this week? I'm not quite sure.
So maybe
but
don't get Digne.
Keep an eye on Digne.
Well, I've got Coleman.
Coleman.
I think he's such a good shout at 5-5.
Yeah, I like that.
So there we go.
Well, Everton's nil-nils forever policy. So we'll see how that goes. That pretty much wraps us up. Jake, could you please just give us a bit of an update on what's in Match of the Day mag this week?
Yes, Match of the Day mag is very tasty this week. as you can see on the front cover, we've got the Match Attacks back. They are back.
Tearing into the packet of Match Attacks now.
He is indeed. They're brand new for the season. On the front of our mag before they're even in shops. And there are some very tasty ones in there. I got a couple of Wolves. I was very happy. We'll see who Michael gets.
I got here. Oh, I've got a Wolves. I've got Ivan Cavallero. Wolves are actually in this now, which is quite incredible for a Europa League pack of cards.
Europa League and Champions League.
We have Nacho Monreal, Marcelo, Di Maria, and Sadio Mane.
Beautiful.
This is the Sadio Mane week.
Whoa,
is that a shiny?
Nice. Oh,
I don't know, but he's going on my desk.
Very nice. We've seen a Messi 101 club come out of the front of here already, so they're very nice. And in the mag as well, we've got the definitive guide to the race for the Golden Boot. Got Kane, Rashford, Sterling there, standing front out on the magazine. It's going to be one of those boys you'd think. Probably the Englishman in the middle, Harry Kane, but who is chasing him down? Some lovely stuff in there. Also, Harry Maguire Man United poster. So that's new.
Thank you very much, Jake, for joining us. Hopefully it's the first of many. And please come to radiotimes.com for all of the latest Premier League previews. We have sporting previews across pretty much every sport you want to watch this weekend, this bank holiday weekend.
Very tight.
Enjoy that one. Thank you very much. Join us next week. See you later.
Bye-bye.